Okay, got that out of the way. Welcome everyone to the October Jones Health and Safety Committee meeting. It's good to see you all here, and especially those of you who expressed interest in the LSC recently at our October 12th general meeting. It's great to see you all here. We have a couple of things to go over. I linked the agenda in the chat. I'll do so again, but Daniel, I wanted to ask if you are all set to take some minutes for us today.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm on the move again, so I can't take them currently, but I will go back and rewatch it. Is that fine?
Yeah, totally. I mean, whatever works for you. Also, I don't know, Violet, if you have the capacity to help out with the minutes, they don't need to be super detailed or anything. Just a short little record of what we talk about for those who can't make it. But so then let me actually go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and two. Okay. Oh, Zerlina's here as well. Excellent. Okay, like I said, welcome again. Nice to see everyone on this. Thanks, Daniel. Nice to see everyone on this chilly evening. It's finally cool outside. My heater's on. I don't know about y'all. The meeting agenda is linked in the chat for those of you joining recently. I'll link it one more time for you. And so here it is, just written out. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:05 p.m. on October 25th. So first we will do a roll call. So I will go down the list of permanent members of the committee. So Daniel.
Here, sorry.
And Violet.
Here.
And let's see, Dr. Plunkett is not here. I am here. So that's 3 out of 4. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Cassie, Deborah, we're still good to go. We have quorum, is that right? Okay. Okay, great. Then let's do a quick approval of the agenda. So I'll do roll call once again. So Daniel.
Yes.
Violet.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the car driving. So
Oh, no
give me a
worries.
minute.
No, all good. Just approval of the agenda. So if that's good with you.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I approve the agenda as well. So that's 3 out of 3 who are present. So that's approved. And then the next item is to nominate a permanent member. And so for this, one person, a permanent member will nominate, and then another member will second the nomination, I think, right? And then we all vote on it. Is that how that works? When it's a smaller group, I'm a little less sure. But so I would like to nominate Ms. Cindy Lalagan to be a permanent member of the Jones Health and Safety Committee. Do I have a second?
A second.
Excellent. So then we can do a roll call of approval of that motion. So Daniel?
Yay.
Violet?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So Ms. Logan, you are now a permanent member, our first teacher member of the committee, which is really exciting. Yay, okay. So now we're 4-4. And I want to just say quickly, I know we just did one nomination, but I thought for this meeting, if you are an interested parent, I didn't want to put you on the spot for now. I wanted to just, invite parents to attend this meeting and see how it goes for you if you feel called to be a permanent member, then please reach out to me, and then the next meeting we can nominate you. But the one requirement for the permanent membership of the meeting is just a regular attendance, because we do need to meet quorum, because this is a public body. So that's the one thing about it, is regular attendance is really necessary. And so I know for parents, you know, some Mondays might not work for you, others might. So you're always welcome to attend and contribute. And the permanent membership is just for when we vote on items, which is actually pretty seldom on this committee compared to the general LSC. So there's not much difference, is the point, between general attendee of the committee and then permanent membership. Just to make that clear, in case you were like, I want to be nominated or something like this. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next topic for discussion, which is, first up, we're going to actually talk about, oh, before we do that, I want to do a quick welcome. I forgot that I put this in here. This is from our last meeting, but I thought I could do it again because it was actually pretty helpful to figure out who everyone is. So if you can, please use the emoji react button, which is on the Zoom toolbar, to introduce yourself, whether you are a student, a parent, a teacher, an administrator, or a community member. And I want to say apologies in advance for parents who have to put the surprised face for, because I know that's
Yeah, I have an issue with the surprise face.
yeah.
Yeah, can't we do better?
Yeah, you know, if you want to add any other Zoom reaction, please do. Thank you
How
very
about a
much.
smiley face? I'm
Smiley
an old
face,
school guy.
yeah.
Okay.
Smiley face. If you want to do the, I was like, which is better, the like laughing emoji or the surprised emoji? I mean, if you're a parent and you're laughing about it, that's, I mean, you know, gotta see the bright side of things. I guess it's one way to put it, but yeah, thank you for that. We can do it a different one next time.
Okay, I'm more of an optimist, so a smiley face is old school. It's fine.
That's, you know, that is good to know. Well, for everyone here, yeah, thank you, Carolyn. Exactly. For everyone here, welcome. We have a pretty diverse mix. I myself am a community member. I didn't do my reaction, but there it is. And for those who don't know me, I do chair the committee, and I'm also a community representative on the LSC. I'm a UIC graduate student, so I spend most of my time learning about education, and this committee is kind of an opportunity for me to try to put some things into practice. And I feel like me and Violet are on the same page in that regard. Violet's the other LSC community representative. So just so you know. And then Daniel, of course, is our LSC student rep, and Miss Logan is our new permanent member, who is a teacher at Jones. So glad to have her. Dr. Plunkett is also a permanent member of the committee, and she is an assistant principal at Jones. She may be joining us, I'm not sure. Okay, another quick overview for those of you who have never attended a LSC subcommittee meeting before. This is just a quick overview. You were at the last meeting, I actually went over this, but I wanted to include it. So this is just you can read it on your own time, but this is a committee that operates under the larger umbrella of the local school council. And we did a lot last spring, building off of the work of a safety committee that was formed in fall of 2020. So we kind of picked up where they left off, and did a couple of things last spring as a committee in conjunction with some student organizations, such as a bystander intervention training, and then a student forum on school safety. And then this summer, Daniel and I worked with Jones administration and Mr. Logan and some other teachers and staff members at Jones on the Jones whole school safety plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So that's what we've done so far. And then just a note about the reason why we record these meetings and the reason why we do things like take roll call, approve agendas. This committee, just like the local school council, is a public body, which means that we must follow the rules of the Open Meetings Act, which means that we have to follow some requirements such as meeting quorum, recording our meetings, and not having meetings that are not public. So we have to post and make announcement of our meetings at least 72 hours in advance. And we post the agenda on the school website. And importantly, the permanent members of this committee cannot meet in groups larger than, I think that might need to be updated, larger than 3 people, I think, because we have 6, we're still 2, larger than 2 people because we have six permanent members. So that's an important note to make. If you wanna meet with us, it's probably a better idea if you have an idea for a topic for this committee to propose adding it to the agenda for the next monthly meeting, as opposed to having a meeting, a private meeting, because we can't do that. So just wanted to go over that. Okay, I think Roberto is on the call, so we're gonna spend just a minute doing some like cross-committee collaboration. And so Roberto, if you have the capacity to speak about the Equity Committee's statement on the dress code, or Deborah.
Hey, Rachel, it's Roberto. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so thank you so much for the invitation to the Health and Safety Committee, and welcome to everyone. I apologize for not being able to be present as far as like my Zoom box and being able to see everyone there. So, I just wanted to, Rachel had asked me to just briefly talk about the dress code and the cross collaboration between the Equity Committee and the Health and Safety Committee. So I co-chair the Equity Committee with Violetta, who's on the call. And there might be a couple other members of the Equity Committee on this call. I think Deborah's on, and maybe Raquel. I apologize, I can't see anyone who's on the Zoom. But so going to the dress code, earlier this year, actually at the beginning of the school year, the start of the school year, as students were returning the first week, it seems that there was an announcement made over the intercom by Dr. Powers and maybe the administrative leadership team, asking students to be more mindful and to dress appropriately. I don't know verbatim what was said, but it seemed that it was targeted to a certain group of students, and specifically our female students or students who dress more feminine. They felt that they were being targeted by the announcement, and the announcement was made repeatedly that students should dress more appropriately and they shouldn't come to school as if they were at the beach or at a picnic with friends, which the last comment seemed a little perplexing to me. And there might have been other announcements that some students felt were harmful or subjective. So those students at the LSE meeting presented, and they surfaced this problem or this issue or their concerns at the LSE in the September meeting. And so the LSE had directed the Equity Committee and the Health and Safety Committee to review the Jones dress code and see if we should update it and revise it to make sure that there's guidelines and that we're also creating an affirming space for our students to be able to express themselves freely and respectfully, right? So that was the directive from the local school council to collaborate with the Health and Safety Committee, and the Equity Committee met in late September to start this process. And one of the things that we're doing as the committee is we're reaching out to other Chicago public schools. A variety of our members are reaching out to Chicago public schools to discuss their dress code. And hopefully we can take some elements of their dress code and try to apply and try to create some guidance We don't want this to be restrictive. I think the students have clearly said we don't want additional rules and that you should trust us, or this was my impression, that we don't need additional rules and that you should trust us, and that the problem that was created by adults. So this is not a kid problem. This is not a student problem. I think they have clearly felt that we should be able to trust them to make good decisions. But I think the problem, the other problem, is that the Jones School dress code, in my view, from my perspective, it's a bit vague. And I think one of the students have expressed that the sole decision of what is or is not appropriate is that falls on the administrative leadership team without any additional guidance. So I think that can be very subjective, and it could lead to, I guess, for a lack of a better word, targeting certain groups of students who the administrative leadership team or staff may believe they're not dressed appropriately for school. So I think that's really the idea behind this. We'll reach out to CPS, and I just had a wonderful conversation with Dr. Keith Robinson, who's an associate principal at Evanston Township High School, and they went through something similar, and they've adopted a lot of the elements from the Oregon Now dress code, model dress code, and he just really, Dr. Robinson was just had a really wonderful and thoughtful conversation about the dress code and how it can be very subjective, and if you don't have any sort of guidelines and trust students, then it could lead to certain students being targeted more than others and escalate to other problems. So he wanted to elevate, as part of this process, he wanted to elevate student voice. And I think that is the appropriate approach in this situation with the Jones School community. So he has agreed to participate or to join the Equity Committee's meeting on this Wednesday, October 27th at 6 p.m. to discuss the process. And I think some of our members will also share out what they've learned from reaching out to other CPS schools and the dress code. So once we do that, we hope to create some sort of statement or guidance on the dress code, and then provide that to the Health and Safety Committee for your committee to review, for members of that committee to review. And if there are any additional comments or suggestions, then we would reconcile the two and then propose that to the local school council for approval. So that's pretty much it. The one thing that Dr. Robinson mentioned is just reframing things, right? Reframing the why we are doing this. And we want to make sure that we trust the students and that we provide them with good guidance and that they will make the right decision and that they are able to express themselves freely. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Dr. Robinson more on Wednesday, and anyone who's attending this call, you are absolutely welcome to join in that conversation and sharing space. That's it for me, Rachel, unless you have questions or if anybody else has questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
No, thank you so much, Roberto, for filling us in. I really appreciate it, for summarizing that kind of somewhat long sequence of events so succinctly. I did want to ask Deborah or Violet if either of you wanted to add anything to what Roberto mentioned, because both of you are also on the equity committee. If not, it's totally okay.
I don't have anything to add currently. But yeah, that was great summary, Roberto.
If nothing else, then I will just say it's pretty remarkable to see students advocate for themselves, especially at a local school council meeting in front of a lot of adults and administrators. So I appreciate the equity committee doing this work because the students asked for us to do it. And students ask for a lot of things, but they were very explicit in what they asked for this time around. So just wanted to say, that's why we're spending committee time talking about it, so that, you know, next month we can move forward and review what the equity committee comes up with, and always inviting student input on everything, so that it's much more collaborative. So if there are no more comments about
Rachel, if there's, can I add something, Rachel?
sure.
Sure. On that note of getting feedback from students and students advocating for themselves and asking us to do that. So we are absolutely taking into account student voices. And one of the things that the equity committee has asked is, we have a student representative, Debbie, and we've asked Debbie and Daniel, who's on the health and safety committee and is the LSC student representative, the student representative for the Jones Local School Council. We've asked Debbie and Daniel to work together and reach out to some of the cultural identity clubs and the Student Government Association to get more information and feedback of like what they would like to see in the dress code.
I have a quick comment. This is Greg Berlowitz. I'm a parent of a Jones student. Roberto, thank you so much. That was an amazing summary. When Dr. Powers made that announcement, my child came home a little upset, and my kids spent the night looking at dress code policies around the city and everywhere, and their favorite policy was Evanston. Evanston apparently has a brilliant progressive policy that they worked on a few years ago. So I don't know if you guys have looked at that, but I read it and it was pretty impressive. I would definitely recommend adding that to your list of possibilities.
I think, Roberta, that is the person that you were speaking to. Is that not correct?
Yes, and you're absolutely right that Evanston does have a very good policy, and they went through something like this at Jones, where their dress code was subjective. And so I've reached out to Evanston and currently in discussion with Dr. Keith Robinson, who's an associate principal at Evanston Township High School. So he'll be presenting on Wednesday, and you're absolutely right. They do have a really great dress code policy that was based off the Oregon Now dress code policy, which is, I believe, the National Organization for Women, if I'm not mistaken.
Wonderful. Thanks.
We will have more on the dress code. We can have more discussion, I think, too, about it. Right now, it's just kind of an update on where that's headed. So thank you, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and move along just so we can actually get to some health and safety specific topics. But I wanted to thank Roberto again for talking today and for coming to the meeting. I know you have a meeting on Wednesday, so I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is about COVID protocols. I wanted to bring this up at our meeting because we were talking about it at the last Health and Safety Committee meeting. But then between then and now, there was a Jones Blueprint article that I was reading, and which was pretty concerning, but I also thought it was important to address some of the issues that were brought up in this article. So there was several instances. I'm not sure how many, but the article kind of outlines several instances where students were placed on a quarantine list at Jones, and then were told by some people that they were on the quarantine list, were not able to come to school, were told by other people that they were not on the quarantine list anymore, came back to school in the middle of the school day, were then removed from school and sent home. And so just like general disruption to their days, all because they were in close contact with someone who tested positive for COVID at Jones. So this seems to me to be a kind of a question to ask, and I was hoping that we could maybe have some context from administration here at the meeting, but we can always follow up. But we know, this is what we know, right? We know that students do not need to quarantine if they are fully vaccinated. That's CPS's policy. But that does not seem to be transmitted to students because some students are still quarantining even though they are vaccinated, and then they're missing school. So that seems to be an issue. And that kind of was outlined in this Jones Blueprint article. And so my question was just, who updates the Jones quarantine list? Is it someone outside of the school? Maybe there's a miscommunication there. And then I was actually also going to ask Ms. Logan, do you have access to the Jones quarantine list? And do we know how often this list is updated? I just thinking about ways to maybe avoid this problem in the future. I do see Zerlina's hand raised, so I want to just Zerlina, if you have something to add.
I just wanted to know, what does the list actually look like, and who gets the list? Because I know my son came home last week because he was in contact with someone and he isn't vaccinated due to religious beliefs on his end. And we got him tested and they came back negative, and we sent them to the test results to the principal, and we didn't get any response back. But he is due to return to school. What is it, tomorrow? To return back to school tomorrow after 10 days. And just how is this beneficial? Because if they come in contact with COVID with their peers or their teacher at school, what other implements are you guys, just putting into play to make sure that this doesn't continue? Because we're sending our kids to school and we have other children and plus ourselves at home, and they're coming back with having contact with people, as opposed to CPS policy stating that children who aren't tested go through the procedures or whatever you guys do at that school to make sure that they don't enter the building with COVID. So I just want to know if those standards are being followed.
That is a great question, Zerlina, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It's definitely something that we can ask Dr. Plunkett when we get a chance to connect with her. I think you're not the only parent who has this question, but it seems to me testing, I don't know if teachers or parents can report on testing at Jones with respect to this exact issue, and also the quarantine list. I see Deborah, you have your hand up.
I'm sorry, the raise your hand function isn't working on my computer right now. The parents receive an email from Mr. Mitchell the night before. It's like the night before they're going to do testing at school. They've been averaging about once per week. And the notice comes in pretty late. It's not necessarily been the same day each week. And then kids get tested, and within however many hour, day or two or whatever, they get their test results back. So that's one way we find out kids at school have COVID, is because kids are testing. The other way is, of course, if people self-identify. But even if they're testing just once a week, I received the notification that came to parents today about the current Jones case. And that person who was tested positive was in our building for 5 days before they knew they were positive. So the ability to time this to minimize school disruption for unvaccinated students is really very challenging, because they only have somebody coming once a week. We're very fortunate at Jones that we do have testing once a week, because I see on Twitter and on other social media that there are plenty of CPS schools where the testing has not been happening regularly. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for a while. But parents get an email through the Aspen system, like the night before they're going to test, to remind us and to remind the students. I guess they get the same email that the following day, during certain hours, testing will be available. They seem to encourage students to come during their lunch period or during AC Lab if the testing service is going to be there that long.
Got it. That is really helpful to note, Deborah. Thank you. Zerlina, did you want to add something?
My stepson is actually sitting right next to me, and he just stated, and I know I've never asked my husband as well, did he receive any emails in regarding to the on-site testing and when it was available? And both of them said they hadn't received anything. So how is this procedure working and being effectively used if my sophomore, who's not vaccinated, is going to school even if he caught COVID outside of school, took it back, because I'm not just thinking about him, I'm thinking about every student and also every household to make sure that everyone is safe. So if he's not getting it, my husband's not getting it, I'm not getting an email, how do I sign up to get these emails to make sure that he's tested?
Mhm. That is so, Ms. Logan actually sent something to me just before the meeting, which was a flyer that she received that is basically outlining how to sign up for COVID testing in Jones. But I mean, I do wonder, so if those communications aren't coming to you, Deborah, where did you?
My first question, Zerlina, my question, are you getting other emails from the school administration? Like the homecoming email and the Dr. Powers Eagle updates and things like that? Do you get those as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you're getting those, but not the COVID updates.
Yes.
Okay, here's my suggestion, because I discovered this week that some of our administrators are in the office and some of our administrators are out of the office. The easiest way to communicate that back to the school, I would go back to the school leadership. I would send an email to Dr. Powers, Dr. Plunkett, Mr. Mitchell, and Ms. Gonzalez Torres all at once, because then whoever's actually in the office has the chance to pick it up and answer and say, look, I'm getting this, but not this. Can you make sure that we're on all of the right distributions?
Okay, will do. Thank you.
That's helpful, but I do think, I mean, to Zerlina's point, it would be helpful to, I think, have a more widespread awareness that this testing is available at the school. And so, you know, students probably want to utilize it. And so Ms. Logan had an idea. I don't know if you want to share. I don't want to speak for you, Cindy.
Oh, sure. I mean, just today I got some flyers explaining how to sign up for the testing for your students. And I thought maybe we could pass those flyers out at parent teacher conferences or some other avenue, if anyone has any ideas.
Yeah, what ideas do you as parents have? I mean, I know there's like so many emails sent every day, so maybe you're missing the email, or it's not coming, and certainly in this case, because there's like COVID emails that are separate. So any ideas that parents have for how to communicate to students and to families that this is an option?
I am getting the COVID testing emails from Jones. They come from Eric Mitchell. But I am also not getting a lot of emails from Jones.
Okay.
So I may have to do what somebody suggested, to email everybody. But I see on Facebook that there's lots of emails about lots of things from Jones, but I don't get them. So I don't know why I'm getting the testing emails and not others.
Kind of the opposite problem of Zerlina then.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a parent, my experience has been that I get most emails and I do receive them, but as we know in this technology, sometimes things might get into spam or junk. There's got to be some way we could maybe enhance quality control, that everyone gets an email, or is it possible that we send text messages out to people's cell phone as another alternative or as a backup?
That's a really good idea. I use text. I teach adult students, and I've found that text message is like the number one way. If students are okay with receiving a text, the number one way. I know with students under the age of 18, it's a little different. But for parents, maybe opting into texting communication. Raquel, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say that school used to use the texting app, but they no longer use it because it costs so much per person. So it's very expensive to add 2,000 students plus their parents and guardians. But it was very nice at the time when we had it.
Yeah, that's good to know. I wonder
how long ago was that, because pricing is very vacillates a lot in this technology age. So it might be economically feasible, and maybe more so focus on a parent. And-
No, it was looked into again, because my oldest graduated in
Okay.
2019. And then when my second child came back this year as a freshman, I asked about it and they looked into pricing, in the summer prior to this year, and it was still very expensive.
I think that because of the gravity of this being COVID, maybe we could get some type of abatement or some type of fund relief whereby it deals with COVID. Because
So maybe,
government.
so what I'm hearing is, suggest to school to use the texting app when it comes to COVID communications?
Correct, as
Okay.
a secondary. And I think due to the fact that COVID is such a, let's say, important issue,
Yes.
and we're dealing with people's health,
Yes.
we're not dealing with homecoming, we're not dealing with, other
Okay.
issues. Not saying that none of those are important, but COVID is such an important issue. Maybe we can get relief from federal or state funding to allow us to do texting also.
That is a really good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I think especially, COVID being, what it is, but in addition, I think what this Blueprint article really pointed me to was students not knowing what to do when they're on a quarantine list, that not being like made clear. And I think maybe like a texting that could be fall in the umbrella of COVID testing, like information is like what, because students are missing school when they don't need to, like, students who were put on the quarantine list in error. There's a student in the story who missed 2 days of school, and I think they missed out on like a audition for a play. They were really bummed about that, and that's not acceptable. At least I don't think that's acceptable, but it seems like maybe this is something that we can propose, the texting option for COVID specifically.
Correct, because we could certainly do better. And this is a very important issue, because we don't ever want to see a student missing school when they don't have to.
Yeah.
So, I think we can really lobby this, that it's important enough that it should be brought in as a secondary method of communication to make sure everyone has the correct information and can make the right decisions and right course of action. Because again, it's extremely important that students who don't need to miss school should not miss school.
Definitely. With respect to the quarantine list though, Ms. Logan, do you have access to that? And do you have any way of looking to see, I mean, probably not privacy wise, but seeing students that are vaccinated and students that are not?
Teachers, not vaccinations, and we're not even allowed to ask.
Right.
But we do get a list of students who shouldn't be in school, like I guess the quarantine list.
Mhm.
And I've only seen that list a couple times though. So.
And
but
teachers aren't able to edit it, right?
No, we can't. No, we just a view
You're
only.
just sent. Okay.
We just sent a list, and it's an email. It's not like a link to a list or anything.
Got it. Okay. No, I saw Joseph, you unmuted. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. That fourth question is probably worth a bit of conversation. In addition to not knowing which students are vaccinated, is Jones aware at all about what percentage of their students are vaccinated?
I don't think they've even asked.
Yeah, I'm not recalling that we were asked this meeting either. As a parent, I kind of wish there was more messaging around vaccination, actually. And testing is important, but seems secondary to trying to get as many students on the campus vaccinated. And I know that's a CPS wide issue, but first and foremost, the needs for testing lessen if people are vaccinated. And
that actually, there's like the second part of my COVID protocol slide was actually talking about vaccination.
Oh, great.
So, but it doesn't talk about students. It's just kind of looking at, I wanted to just provide an update that I thought was relevant, which is that as of October 13th, 86% of CPS employees have submitted proof of vaccination. Obviously, I don't have numbers for Jones, but thought it was important to include the context. And then this is kind of a crucial point too. CPS had originally said by October 15th, much like city workers in the city of Chicago, everyone had to provide proof of vaccination, otherwise they would be subject to termination. And that has been relaxed. So also around October 13th, CPS said CPS employees can opt into weekly testing for now. And I think the new CEO of CPS has said that by the new year, the vaccination will be required, but they're kind of extending this period. And they're not enforcing like punitive measures against teachers or staff members who have not provided proof of vaccination. I don't know how relevant all of this is to Jones, again, because I don't actually know either what percent of students at Jones have been vaccinated and what percent of Jones students or Jones employees are vaccinated, but there is that context. And so yeah, one question I had too was like, what percent of students at Jones have signed up for COVID testing? Is there a way to be kind of, we're talking about texting families about vaccination, like Joe mentioned, and also testing, like Greg mentioned. Can we not send a message to everyone, not get redundant text messages? I don't know if that's, just checking the chat. Definitely, yeah. So those are the questions I have. I just put this here, and I'm going to include a link when I upload this presentation to the link to sign up for regular testing. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's, we all want COVID to be over. I know the positivity rate in Chicago is going down. It's 1.9%, I think is the last I saw. But still several hundreds hospitalizations a day, and still several people who are either unvaccinated and or not getting tested. So still wanted to bring it up before we move on to our next.
Yeah, and I'll say the CPS has a page dedicated to vaccination that messaging at Jones could pull from. And, perhaps it's as simple as integrating a message about testing with one about vaccination. But again, it seems
Definitely.
off to me that we're getting regular messages about testing, but not regular messages about the value of vaccination. I mean, first things first, vaccination is a life-saving intervention for folks and important for protecting each other. So again, I know we're limited at a particular school by the policies of CPS, but that there is at least that language at the CPS COVID page that could be borrowed and pushed out to families and students.
And I mean, like you're saying, vaccination is related to testing. You don't have to do as much testing if there's a higher vaccination rate. One thing I just wanted to say finally about this was, this came up in our September meeting, but we have been hearing about students having trouble or not knowing what to do with respect to COVID at Jones since the school year started. They don't know how to contact their teachers. This came up in the Blueprint article. They don't know what the procedure is. And so just something that I'm gonna look forward to as we move into the next, well, honestly, this month, as soon as possible, is there a way to kind of consolidate and put a procedure together so that students know and are clear of what to do? And I think this texting idea is a really key one, so that, students aren't left in the dark.
And I'll just make one comment about vaccination. I believe it's still the case, but it certainly was the case that the city had built in significant incentives to become vaccinated. I think the incentives were up to $100 or so, and they would the people doing the vaccination at the city would come to people's homes to do it as well. So there's some really positive messaging through the city's approach that could be delivered to help influence that particular number.
Definitely.
Well.
For sure. Thank you all for sharing and for contributing to that. I'm gonna go ahead and move us, just like keeping track of time. I'm gonna move us on to the next item on the agenda for today, which is a quick update. I actually may have gotten the order of this wrong, so I apologize. Quick update on the Jones Whole School Safety Plan. For those of you who attended last meeting, I talked about the Jones Whole School Safety Plan and the Whole School Safety Plan writ large for CPS. But I just wanted to provide another update. And Mr. Mitchell also provided me with some information that I'll share. But for those of you who are new to the committee and relatively new to the LSC's work, the Whole School Safety Plan and Whole School Safety Committee was formed last spring per a directive from CPS, which was for all of the schools who voted to retain their school resource officers, which are armed Chicago police officers in schools. Oh, Mr. Mitchell's here. That is great. They were tasked with forming committees, whole school safety committees, which are comprised of parents, teachers, administrators, students, and school staff, to come up with a plan, a holistic plan for safety at the school, and also consider the decision to whether or not to retain the school resource officers or invest the money somewhere else. That was an option that CPS gave the whole school safety committees, which they had not previously done. So the deal was retain the officer or receive $50,000. Those were kind of, and you could do that for one officer or for both officers. And so for this past summer, the whole school safety committee proposed their plan to the LSC, and ultimately the Jones LSC voted per the whole school safety committee's recommendation to end the SRO program at Jones, so remove both officers. And we approved the whole school safety plan, which included, among other things, hiring a culture and climate coordinator for the school with the funds that were being used to fund the two positions, the two school resource officer positions. And I see that, I'm sorry, Raquel, I totally missed your comment in the chat. We can return to that question in a second. I'm sorry. Let me just finish this off. But in August of 2021, or August of this year, Jones admin posted the position for the culture and climate coordinator. And then this last month and this past month, the committee for hiring that individual has been meeting and has scheduled interviews this week for potential candidates. So that process is well underway. And I see that Mr. Mitchell has joined us. Hello. So I wanted to give you the opportunity if you would like to share some other whole school safety.
No, you've done a great job.
Well, I got your document that you shared earlier today, so I did want to share that really quickly, just because there are some other updates that I didn't include in this presentation. So let me actually switch over to that now. And that will give parents on the call who have not seen the plan, the whole school safety plan, an opportunity to kind of see what it looks like. There are four priorities, I think. And so this is an update that Mr. Mitchell put together for us and for the record. And so here are four priorities. The first being make sure all students feel connected with staff and peers.
If you want, Rich, I can speak to that.
Yeah, please.
So as you mentioned, because really the context that you set is really what I wrote at the beginning of the report. So with the first priority, it was to make sure all students feel connected with staff and peers. And so there were three bullet points that we put as actionable things that we wanted to do. Part of that was involving the work that we're doing with equal opportunity schools. So it says here that using the EOS data, we wanted to work on a plan that would get where every student kind of had a trusted adult. We also wanted to develop a series of school-wide student-teacher relationship building lessons So in the realm of SEL, and we noted that that could be done during things like Eagle Lab and looking at a partnership with groups like Emoja. And then opportunities for teachers to kind of share what they're doing. Some do a better job than others, but creating a space where they can kind of share what they're doing that's working. So the way I framed this report was to list the priorities and then just kind of update you. So as far as priority 1 is concerned, district-wide, there has been, as I wrote here, a kind of soft reset with the work with EOS. So we will be collecting some new EOS data, but once it's collected, we will kind of follow through with the idea of that, looking for that one-to-one trusted adult. There will be a further EOS update at the next LSC meeting because there should be an EOS meeting this week. So I look forward to being able to give you, further information about that. As it's mentioned here, we have partnered with Emoja and teachers have been receiving professional development as relates to social emotional curriculum and have been implementing it with fidelity since the beginning of this year. And they have been using the Friday Eagle Labs. And we also established one ACT Lab a month on a Thursday, which provides an opportunity for a slightly longer lesson to be given. And the last point is, at this point in time, we haven't necessarily created that dedicated additional time for teachers to share. It can be done in their department meeting time, but we haven't necessarily mandated that to be the case. But we're still trying to work out what that time is going to look like. Sliding down to priority 2, this was the idea of making sure that students feel physically safe in the school. And I don't know, Rachel, when you talked about the whole school safety plan, did you talk about how it was to be reimagined and the 3 elements of it being emotional safety, physical safety, and relational trust?
I did not at this meeting, so thank you. Yeah, definitely important to mention.
Okay, so yeah, those criteria. So priority 2 focuses on more so the physical safety element. And so with trading in our SROs, we definitely felt the need to add an additional security team member. And we were looking at some additional security measures to the physical campus. And as far as an update of that, we had to repost our security position. And in August, in addition to the position that we were requesting through the whole school safety plan, we had to hire a new security team member because someone had resigned. So we've replaced that person, but we have yet to hire this additional person as it relates to the whole school safety plan. We had someone in mind. We actually interviewed, we had 2 very strong candidates, and one, as I put in the report, kind of ghosted us. We were well on our way to, accepting this person, and they just ceased all levels of communication, and we don't know why. So we moved on to our next candidate, who in essence declined. So we're kind of back to square one, but it's okay because it is an important position that we want to make sure we get the right person to service us. As it relates to the physical kind of facilities element, we've kind of put a pause on that because from a district perspective, with the change in facility management, we wanted to make sure that the right people are in place so that when we start requesting the funds necessary to do what we need to do, we're talking to the right people. So that's the long and short version of priority 2. Priority 3, to make sure that students have access to social emotional supports. Again, we had, this is the part where we wanted to have the culture and climate coordinator, and Rachel already kind of told you the progress that we were making there. And the other comment is that school leadership was supposed to present a comprehensive plan on August 16th. There will be an update to the SEL plan that will be shared as part of the State of the School address at the November LSC meeting. So the last priority, which is priority 4, was to make sure we provide mental health supports for students. And by doing that, we were looking at the development of behavioral health team, establishing a community partner that would help with be a mental health provider. And we were looking at an additional social worker that we are hoping to get through OELSS. And so the updates as of today, we do actually have a behavioral health team that has been created, and we've been working with the district to ensure that the team that we're building is sustainable. We're currently working in a district-led PLC, which is a professional learning community, with some other schools in the district where we're able to share ideas and grow collectively. As a matter of fact, there's a PLC this Wednesday. So we're definitely growing, and it's exciting to see. We're still waiting for CPS to kind of announce who our community partners are. Like, I feel like we're in this kind of weird limbo. They're there and available, but how we're being matched up is still unclear to me. So we're still working that piece out. But the community partner is available, and the way that we envision us partnering is providing mental health services for all students who need it. And then lastly, we did get an additional social worker this year. So we have our one full-time social worker, and we have a second social worker who's there currently 3 days a week. And so that's definitely been helpful. So that kind of concludes the priorities that we had listed and kind of where we are with each priority at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell, for updating us on that. I want to keep track of the time, because I do want to leave enough time for the last item on the agenda for us to go over. But I know there are several parents on the call. So does anyone have any questions regarding this whole school safety plan update? The vision of this is to keep it a monthly update. So if you have a question, maybe in the works, and you want to bring it up at the next meeting, that's definitely feasible, possible. But thank you again, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate the update. And so if it's all right, I will go ahead and.
Thank you for the update, and it's a lot to digest. Again, I'm new to the group, but it's very comprehensive. Let me say that. But there's a lot to digest. So probably next meeting, I could contribute better.
Excellent. No problem. Yeah, like I said, I will link this. This actually is already linked in the agenda, but I usually send out like a post meeting summary, and so I will link this document that Mr. Mitchell put together, along with some other documents from the whole school safety committee. If you would like to look through them, there's quite a bit, but I can definitely hear that it's a lot of information to take in. So I'm just gonna return to that is not what I want. Can you zoom? You can see my screen. Okay. So the final topic that I wanted to bring up again this meeting is in regards to updating the Jones Student Handbook with respect to trans and gender non-conforming students. And so I just wanted to provide a little bit of context and from the last meeting where we talked about this. So CPS has a district-wide set of guidelines, you could say, that address some common topics that relate to trans students and gender non-conforming students. But there are some schools in CPS that have kind of come up with school-specific policies. And so something that I asked at the last meeting was, is there a possibility, does a school-specific policy or set of guidelines already exist for Jones? If so, can it be added to the student handbook? If not, can this committee maybe take part in writing a paragraph? And I want to just quickly make the case for a school-specific policy, because it may seem like, well, if there's already a CPS policy, then why is there a school-specific policy needed? And I just want to provide this example from Taft High School. The importance of a school-specific policy is that if, for example, there's a gender-neutral bathroom in the school like Jones has, that can be included in the school specific policy. Also, as it relates to name changes, if there is someone at the school on the staff who is aware of how to begin and complete the name change process for a student, that can be included. So if a student has a question about who to contact with respect to changing their name, or asking about what that process might look like, if they're just curious, there's like a specific point person, because there have been, and I think one parent on the call can speak to there being some issues with name changes in CPS, and that process being kind of obscure, to put it in a certain way. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I see Daniel has his hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say at the last LSA meeting, you brought this up, Rachel, I think, during the health and safety update, and Dr. Powers acknowledged that there wasn't a school specific one, and I believe he said he would be okay with us drafting a policy. So we have admin, specifically Dr. Powers, behind this. We can go back and check the recordings, but I remember he was on board with this. So just, yeah.
No, yeah, thank you, Daniel, for bringing that up. I think he did say that, and I mean, I don't, though, that my thought on it is that if students can be involved with writing this, that would be ideal. And so if this is something that the Student Voice Committee is interested in working on with us, but I think the CPS district-wide policy was posted to the Jones website recently, but the school-specific policy is kind of what was brought up. So that is, if that's something that people have ideas about or thoughts about, I think there is a case to be made for it, I guess, is my thing. But I would love to hear others' thoughts about it. So Daniel, I don't know if that's an old hand or not, but Mr. Mitchell, I do see your hand up.
Yeah, I don't think that that Jones can have our own specific policy. We have the district policy. If we want to add some language to the existing policy, maybe that's something we can explore, but it'll still have to be run through legal and communications and everything else. But just to be clear, there's one policy as relates to that, and that is the district policy. So what we've had in our handbook, we'll definitely have to perhaps revise, or just definitely make sure that it has been thoroughly vetted by those people that I mentioned.
I guess I see other hands up, but if that is the case, I wonder how Taft High School was able to have a policy that's specific in there. Do you? Yeah.
Again, maybe it's the terminology policy. If I haven't seen what you just put up for Taft, I need to look at that again. If it's in their handbook, again, they may have some language that's specific to their school, and if it's been approved by the district, so be it. But I don't know that it's drastically different than the actual district policy.
I see. So not creating a Jones specific policy, but maybe, okay. I see. So there are some people in the chat saying, I think what's needed is procedures that explains how the policy is carried out at Jones, which I do think is reflected in the language of the policy itself. It says it is, on schools to see to it that these policies are implemented. I do see Greg Berlowitz's hand up and Cassie's as well. So do y'all want to speak?
You can go ahead, Greg.
Okay, hi, my name is Greg Berlowitz. I'm a parent of a child at Jones. I was at the last meeting and we talked about this, and I understand Mr. Mitchell about the word policy, but I think our idea was that for a new student to go to the Jones website, and if they searched terms, they wouldn't have found anything previous to last week when this was put on the website. And it would be really helpful, I think, for new students to just have a link which says, at Jones, this is what you can expect, a paragraph or two, not necessarily a new policy, but here is where the gender neutral bathrooms are. Here are the clubs that might be of interest to you. Here are some people that you could talk to. They could be great resources to you. Nothing, not anything substantial, but just sort of, this is the way Jones looks at this, and here's the way we think we can make this journey of high school easier for you as a transgender student. I had mentioned to Rachel, I'd be happy to help put something together, but to Daniel, I agree with Rachel that it'd be best for students to do that, and ultimately, but I think that might be something that would also make Jones stand out as a welcoming environment to trans students, which I think it actually is. But you could put that on the website. So.
Thank you, Greg. Cassie, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, definitely everything that Greg said. And I think the CPS policy is essentially what schools must do. And that's sort of like the baseline. So I think schools can certainly add more to that and, have this welcoming environment because they offer more information. And, for both parents and students, if you have a student who needs to find this information, I don't know where to find it at all. Like, I have only information about like gender neutral bathroom facilities and stuff through word of mouth. And so that really isn't sufficient. And so, yeah, any additional information is definitely needed on the website, in the handbook, and in other modes, I think.
I do see Mr. Mitchell seeing the clarification. So yeah, I think the school specific policy is mostly not policy per se, but just like school highlighting school specific supports and contacts. I think that's especially the case for like the name change procedure, because there's a lot of ways students can get locked out of like school specific, like Google Classroom, things like this, if the system is not matching up. And that's like a district-wide policy or district-wide issue with like updating systems or systems not talking to one another. But if there's a way to kind of mitigate that on the school level, I think that would be great. And so I see Joe's hand up.
Yeah, I just thought I put something in the chat box that I thought I should at least describe a little bit. One hope I would have is that as part of a policy, there'd be some training on transgender experience that would be included. And that training can happen at various levels with, administration, teachers, students, interested students. But I think that really enlivens a policy and helps it to grow and have meaning on a campus. There's a really great resource here in Chicago, the Brave Space Alliance, that does some excellent work in this realm. That's also they do some great work around intersectional identities. So it's the kind of work that can be easily integrated into anti-racism work as well. So it might be something for folks to familiarize themselves with. We've had some experience with them and they were outstanding.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Brave Space Alliance. Good group. And I'm seeing Greg say in the chat, CPS teachers are required to take transgender policy training. I also saw another comment about, maybe if there's a way to review language in forms that is being sent from the school. I think there have been some instances where that language is not inclusive or just not actually correct and with respect to like the definition of gender identity that has brought up to me by a couple of different people. But I feel like what I want to focus on as a committee is like next steps for maybe not creating a whole new policy, but like Cassie was saying, kind of building out what CPS is saying should happen with respect to trans and gender nonconforming students. And so I guess for the next meeting, I was thinking, this is just my idea, but if others agree with it, that, or disagree with it, I would like to know if that would be a good use of the committee's time to spend some time, invite some students, hopefully, who are interested in this. Because I think it's a matter of just like communication to students. So that's kind of my proposal.
Yeah, and I would add to that the trans students are going to be among the most marginalized in your community, in the Jones community, and this is the case at any institution, I believe. And to the extent that you're reaching these students and developing a true sense of belonging and support, that just helps everyone on a campus. And so I really like what you're saying about that. I think this to center that within a group like this, those kinds of efforts is really, well advised from any kind of public health perspective for the Jones community.
And from the perspective of name changes, I think that that process is very daunting. I imagine even like, pronouns, it's very daunting, and it's hard to kind of put it out there in the first place. So I think being proactive, I guess my thought is maybe being proactive about where people are coming from and like what resources are available might be helpful. So students aren't coming out, literally coming out and expressing something that's very, very personal, but don't have to do that work. It's already kind of there, done for them. So I am trying to keep track of the time. I don't want to have long meetings, so I want to just give a little bit of a moment for anyone who has a thought or something to share that they wanted to share with us in this last couple of minutes. So yeah, I'll just leave that. If there's anything anyone would like to share now.
I'm new to this format, so when's the next meeting?
Great question. The next meeting is going to be probably sometime around Thanksgiving. Obviously not that week, but it's not officially scheduled is the answer. I try to schedule these around like sufficient distance from general LSC meetings, but I have all of your emails, so I will reach out to all of you with the next meeting. It will be on a Monday at 6 on Zoom.
Great.
So I will definitely let you know. Good question. I think I saw another hand up, Raquel.
Yes, I just wanted to say, as far as the COVID procedures, that it would be helpful if everybody reached out to the Board of Education, because CPS is not exactly being as supportive as they should be. And they are constantly giving out wrong information in district-wide meetings. And that is very dangerous. We're in a pandemic and they're giving out wrong information about how we could be safe. So if people could like email the board, and voice these things, that would be helpful, because they really need to change their thinking and be more supportive of schools and the policies pertaining to COVID.
Definitely. Thank you, Raquel, for that. Yeah, email the Board of Education. Let them know. Seriously, yeah, I agree. So I wanted to just go to this last slide. Thank you everyone for coming to this meeting. I need to add Miss Logan to this list, but if you have any questions or any suggestions for agenda items, please email me or anyone on the committee, and we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Like I said, I will be reaching out with the meeting date, the next meeting date. But in the meantime, it was really great to have discussion with you all and good ideas on the table here. So I just want to, yeah, it's I'm like, let me check the chat really quickly, Mr. Mitchell. Yeah, it's the chat always gets to me. I don't want to miss anyone because I know some people don't want to speak. They just want to type. So thank you everyone for your patience with me. And if there are no more comments, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn this meeting for the evening. Thank you everyone so much again for coming, and have a great rest of your Monday night.
Thank you. You're
Thank
doing a great
you.
job, Rachel.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite, Rachel.
Thank you so much for coming, Zelina.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Stop sharing.